that we've heard this many times before, Peter, the doomsday scenario, that this is the end of the world. We shall see. I don't think it's
the end of the world. I say it's the end of our phony economy. It's the end of America's ability to live beyond its means and borrow money from the rest of the world and not pay it back and import a bunch of goods that we can't afford to pay for with exports.
Well, yes,
that dynamic.
Peter, look, the thing is, what we're trying to do is create a normalization that will occur. And then, now wait a minute, and once the normalization occurs, you better believe that the emphasis will be on living within your means and start being responsible in both on a fiscal and monetary basis. I mean, after all, Ben Bernanke cut his teeth on inflation targeting. That is a method of trying to maintain control of the economy.
Hang on.
The moon somewhere, because that's where inflation is going.
Peter, hang on a minute, because we're going to lose Congressman Paul in about 3 minutes.
Hey, Congressman, quick question. What's the difference between the AIG execs getting bonuses and Congress voting itself a pay raise for 2009?
Well, with my help, being a co-sponsor of a bill, we did put something into the budget this year that will not make it automatic anymore, and they're going to have to vote on it. So that's a slight achievement. But I think it's slightly different morally.
It goes up another $10 since my last time I talked.
Congressman, did the Senate actually vote the other day that the pay raises will no longer be automatic, and will the House actually vote? In other words, will this force members of Congress in both houses to vote every time they get an increase in income, and the automatic increases are now history?
Yeah, matter of fact, the Senate is just catching up with what we did in the House, and the appropriations bill that we passed earlier this year included that provision in there that next year, this year's pay raise went through, and now next year it will not be automatic. That's the way I understand it right now.
Congressman Paul, thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.
For me, it's the best day of the week. I know how busy you are. We'll look forward to chatting with you next Wednesday on Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Congressman. Peter Schiff, just in layman's terms, what did the Fed announce earlier that had you so animated when you joined us?
Well, they announced that they're going to be buying another $300 billion of Treasury bonds and maybe another $700 billion of mortgage-backed securities and agency debt. Basically, what they're announcing is massive inflation, that the Fed is going to print out money and buy government debt and buy agency debt. And that is the worst thing that they could be doing. And that, you're getting a rally in the bond market today, although the 30-year is selling off rather hard from where it was, and the yield curve is spreading, showing that traders are figuring out the inflationary impact here. But this is a big sell signal for Treasuries.
Listen, Peter.
The government prints money. They make Treasuries less valuable because they're debasing the value of the dollars that the bonds promise to pay. And if you look at what's happening in the currency market, this is the biggest down day we've had in the dollar probably since this crisis began. The dollar is, the euro is now up better than 4 cents. It's a huge move.
Okay, but Peter, listen,
Peter,
listen.
gold is up $45 an ounce since that statement came out, less than an hour ago.
So, Peter, on that note, gold is finally responding, and even intraday like this, and it sounds like the currency markets, the treasury markets, everything is responding. I come back to what I asked earlier. It's all. I've been following what the Fed has been doing. It used to be a big deal when they'd cut interest rates from 3 to 2.25%, and I'd be upset about that Illuminati aspect of it. They're talking hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars and out. I don't even know what to call it.
They got rates at zero, so they run out of arrows from that quiver. But now they're just printing more money. They're trying to maintain this phony economy. They're trying to prevent all the reforms that Mark Skousen mentioned we need to have from occurring. They don't want us being frugal. They don't want us saving our money. They want us spending every dime we have. They want us going to the malls even if we don't have any money. What
will the Fed do? What will the Treasury do if the Chinese stop buying the bonds, as the Chinese premier hinted outside of London last week he might just stop doing?
Well, they're going to stop, but we can't pay it back. We're going to default on this debt one way or the other, so that the world's going to have to stop lending us money. And then if the Fed just buys all the bonds that nobody else wants, it's massive inflation. And I think what's going to happen is now that the Fed has announced its intention to buy all these treasuries, the people who own treasuries are going to be lining up to sell to the Fed. And I think the Fed's going to be overwhelmed with offers. And ultimately, you're going to see bond prices fall as everybody tries to get rid of their treasuries. Because the people who don't sell are going to lose a fortune because of the inflation that the government creates to buy the treasuries from the people who do sell.
Can I just say, isn't this whole discussion is part of the problem? You need a PhD in economics now to understand how our economy works, but you shouldn't. The economy used to be simple. You had a good or a service, and somebody wanted to pay X number of dollars for that good or service, and they bought it.
And the government's job was to enforce the contract.
But now, no offense, but you people, you make up things like derivatives. You make these things up, and you turn the economy into Las Vegas, and everything now is betting and doing all this stuff. And the government ultimately is the House, and the House always wins, and that's why we're in this mess.
Andy's on to something, and you're sitting here saying that we'll return to normalcy, and then we can get the policies back. We're not. It's the chicken and egg. We're not going to. The economy won't return to normalcy until the policies first return to normalcy.
Well, remember, what existed before was not normal. We were living in a bubble, and the government is trying to reflate that bubble. What's normal is what existed in this country a long time ago. What's normal is you earn money and you don't spend it. You have savings. And then
you can borrow money. There's legitimate use of borrow money. There's legitimate use of derivatives.
Look, if we can't pay back the money we borrowed, we will never return to normalcy.
Well, that's right. But look, I had a conversation with Newt Gingrich no more than 7 years ago where we sat down and we looked into the future by 2010 and we said, my gosh, we're going to pay off the national debt in 2010. Now, of course, it didn't happen because of 9/11 and a million other things. But look, I think we still can come back to normalcy. I've not given up on my country so far.
Mark, you got the final word. Peter Schiff, thank you very much. Congressman Ron Paul, Alex Jones, Cody Willard, Andy Levy, from all of us at Freedom Watch. We'll be here next week, Wednesday, 2 o'clock in the East, 11 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. My friends, stay free.